Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD. You're going to follow me on Twitter. And it's Friday, August 9th. We'll be taking a look at tomorrow's UFC Fight Night card on DraftKings. 10 fights. And we have some unique variables on tomorrow's slate. So definitely check out our DFS strategy for this slate. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. You know how much I like the thummy thumbs. I'll wave them at you until I see the like button getting hit, the subscribe button, the notification bell, to always know when we go live. Remember, if you're here for MLB action, later today, Grinders Live, 5 p.m. Eastern, and that's followed directly by Crunch Time at about 6:15, 6:20. Roth is on with the best weather update in the game for MLB DFS, so check us out then. But we're talking about MMA tomorrow with the best DFS player in the history of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It's TJ Zwarich. And before we talk to TJ, just realize that RotoGrinders Premium members, they've already gotten, it's already posted, the Ground and Pound Premium Breakdown podcast with Mike and Liam, an hour breaking down every single fight on the slate. We even have Squirrel Patrol's takedowns you can see right on the screen. That is already up. And then later today, we'll have the expert survey. We'll have the updated projections, ownership, sim results, everything that you'll need for tomorrow's Fight Night card, which is, let's just say it,
horrific.
It's awful. It's awful. It's horrific. It's not a good card. But sometimes the crap cards are the ones that can be very successful. And TJ, you tend to have a knack for, MMA is not your main sport, but I mean, you have a history of basically listening to Mike, listening to Liam, listening to me, listening to Squirrel Patrol, putting together one lineup and pinking.
Yeah, it's definitely not my top sport in terms of the technical aspect of what's going on within the ring, but I do find it to be one of the most fun kind of like DFS puzzle building lineup type sports. And so this week I'm going to play cash, I'm going to play single entry, and then I'm running 150 lineups. I've looked up and down this card. I feel like it's about as much as I can until we get, those sim results, until Liam's article comes out. But it really just comes down to, I think, what you want to do with basically one guy. Like that's the
right. The
story
TJ,
of this slate
you haven't
right
been
here.
playing MMA DFS for all that long. This is a fairly unique type of slate. I mean, we see these on occasion with an egregiously mispriced fighter due to a late replacement. But on top of it, it's only a 10-fight card, right? 12 is like our normal 12, 13, 15, 14, 15 is the large card. 10 is very small. I mean, we've seen 9 in the past. 8. I mean, there was 9, and then another fight got lost, and we got 8. So if you've listened to this show, we talk mostly about DFS strategy, less about the fights in general. The two contextual variables we're looking for, especially large field GPPs, what the optimal lineup is more or less likely to look like. The two biggest contextual variables is the size of the slate and the spreads of the fights. So the size of the slate, very small, right? 10. So 10, I mean, on a 10-fight card, you're going to be prioritizing win equity more than finishing equity, because just simply getting 6 fighters that win, I mean, that's 6 out of the 10 fights. I mean, like, you just pick the high-scoring 6 winners. Well, there's only going to be 10 winners, really. I mean, obviously there are draws, there's no contest, stuff like that. So simply winning the fight at almost any price range, maybe not the 9K range, but at, like, especially the underdogs, you find 6 that win, and you're probably cashing at least, and you're in contention to win the whole damn thing. And then the spreads of the fights are also pretty wide. We got a 5-1, a 4-1, a 3-1, a couple of 2-1 favorites. So this slate may actually not feature many underdogs that win. So the optimal lineup may actually be closer to 50K in salary. which also presents another unique dynamic, is that it's only 10 fights. So 50K lineups are going to be, that level. 49.5 are also going to be duped at a way higher rate than they would be on a 12, 13, 14 fight card. So if you're running 150, TJ, you may win first place and say congratulations to 128 of your best friends when you split first. The question is, how many lineups are you playing that don't necessarily look like that? Because that elephant in the room, because normally we talk about the main event first, but I think this is more important than the main event. Chris Gutierrez is 7,000. He was gonna face Javid Basharat, and Basharat would have been 9,200. Well, Basharat's not fighting anymore, and they brought in Kang Lee, who I've never heard of. He's a regional fighter, and now Chris Gutierrez is a minus 550 favorite, and he's still only 7,000. If they reprice this slate based on these win odds, Chris Gutierrez would be the $9,500 fighter. He'd be the most expensive fighter on the slate, despite him having a plus 150 inside the distance line, which would be like the fourth best on the slate. Chris Gutierrez, 7,000 at minus 550 win odds, plus 150 inside the distance. We project him to be in 2/3 of the lineups, 66% ownership. What is? I mean, I know you're going to be playing a whole different types of lineups, but how are you handling having a guy that's essentially $2,500 underpriced?
So I think my plan, basically just because, like, we talk about it being dupe city, but it's going to be especially dupe city if you're playing Chris Gutierrez. And so I think my plan is he's basically the reason why I wanted to play a cash lineup, so that I can just throw him in there today, and I got him in a big amount of entry fees and double ups, and I can feel okay with it. And I want to go significantly underweight in tournaments. So I think my plan is to fade him in single entry. And then I think for MME, my plan is to just roster him at his finish rate. I think that's how I want to go about it. And so if he comes out of this with a decision, scores 70, 75, 80, 65. If it's under 80, I feel like there's a chance he could still not be optimal. And so I think I just want to roster him at his finish percentage. If he knocks the guy out, then yeah, he's almost for surely going to be optimal at that price. But if this turns, I don't think he's going to lose. But if this goes into a decision, he scores 72 points, I think there's a very good chance he could not end up being optimal. And so I'm just going to be searching for ceilings in MME. I don't care about floors. I don't give a damn about any of it, because floors don't really matter on a slate like this when everybody can just play Gutierrez, right? And so I just want to be focusing solely on ceilings. And I think in MME, I'm just going to roster him at his finish percentage and then fully fade him in single entry, because in upper dollar single entry stuff, he's probably going to be 80% owned.
Right, because there's multiple approaches you could take with this type of dynamic. Well, first off, just from a fight breakdown perspective, like Chris Gutierrez is really not a finisher type. He's someone that typically, when he wins a fight and he gets a decision and scores 75 points, a lot of leg kicks. He's really not much of a wrestler, right? But he's durable, right? So like the likelihood of like Kang Lee, like knocking him out is probably low. Doesn't mean I mean, can you play Kang Lee for leverage? Obviously you can. So like if Chris Gutierrez was 9,500, he actually wouldn't be that owned on the slate. But the dynamic is that he gives you so much win equity at 7,000 that you don't even have to play anyone. Like if you put together a lineup with Chris Gutierrez, he's your cheapest fighter, and then you could essentially play like 5 favorites in your lineup and not even bother with even taking a shot on anyone like under 7,700, which I think is going to be the popular type of build. And you mentioned, even though like we talked about the contextual variables about, what does the optimal lineup look like? And I said, you should be focusing on win equity on a 10-fight card. But in non-Chris Gutierrez lineups, you really should be focusing on finishing. Like it's like the reason why you said finishing equity is because like if Chris Gutierrez scores, let's just say 80 points in a decision, and you play Damon Jackson and he scores 76 points in a decision, like you lost anyway, right? Like you're
not even cashing at that point.
Right, you're not even correct because he's so owned, right? You need to be able to outscore Chris Gutierrez. And if Chris Gutierrez's likelihood of scoring 70, 75 points is quite high, you need to aim for higher than that. And I think we have some candidates kind of down here that can do that. Another thing that you could do, so you could say, I'm going to build a lineup. And obviously you can build all different types of lineups. You can build a lineup without I think if you don't play Gutierrez in your lineup, you've reduced duplication by a significant amount. But I also think that if you make a group and just say, I'm not going to play like Gutierrez, Barlow, Gregorio, and Spivak are going to be like the highest owned fighters on the slate. Even if you just put them all in a group, like those 4 fighters in a group and say max 2, right? If you say max 2, you're going to avoid a lot of duplication. And if you say max 1, you're going to avoid a lot more duplication. So I think I'm more inclined to kind of use that approach to not play 4 fighters that are 50+% owned in the same lineup. And if you want to get, really different, max 1. Because remember, this card is not, this is the bottom of the barrel. So even though guys are minus 350, it doesn't mean, these aren't the highest level. Yusuf Zalal, rarely should be a minus 440 favorite over anyone, seemingly in the UFC. But against Jarno Aarons, I guess it makes sense.
And over 9K, and if I'm not mistaken, he's never scored over 100 points before.
No, not at all. Typically, he's in the 7. He's the low 7K fighter that you're happy if he scores 75, right? Like that's that type of dynamic. Another thing on this slate is because Chris Gutierrez is 7,000. If you play him, I think if you use Gutierrez in your lineup, be more inclined to leave a lot more salary on the table. Because you're gonna love your lineup. You're gonna plug in Gutierrez. You're gonna plug in one of the main event fighters. And then you're going to be like, well, I could play Barlow and Carl Williams, and I could play Carol Rosa and Yusuf Zalal. You could do anything. You don't have to play anyone and anyone else. And that's going to equal 49-8, 49-9. But if you play Gutierrez and you say, I'm going to play Gutierrez and Janata Diniz, and then Vade and all the 9K fighters play Grigiru and Luciano even, and that Chandler, it's that type of lineup. You're going to look and you go, I left 1,200 on the table, and I think that lineup has as much of a shot at being optimal as some of the other ones, and we'll see with our simulation output when that comes out later today or early tomorrow morning. So another approach would be to just leave more money on the table to reduce your dupes. But it seems like, TJ, for you're more likely to go with just go over the field on the Lee, Aarons, Varetnikovs, Jacksons, Deniz, Kazam. You're just I'm going to just be double all the other guys, 7,400 and below, and then just hope one of, you have a lineup that looks just like a Chris Gutierrez lineup. It just has the other person in it, and hope that one of those other people just outscores Gutierrez. And if he does, you pass a ton of lineups in the process. And if they don't, you live to see another slate next week.
Exactly. It's so tough because it's one of those things that there's no doubt about it. This is if you remove ownership from the equation, this is the best play of the year, bar none. I think by far. You don't get a guy who's favored this much at 7K. Sometimes you get a replacement. You get a guy who's plus 200 or 300 in there, and it's a really big deal. But minus 200 or 300 in there, and it's a big deal. But minus 550 at 7K, I don't think like we're projecting for like low to mid 60% ownership. I think it's going to be over 70, if I'm going to be honest. Like, we see main event chalky guys in the high 50s sometimes. I think this guy's going to be pushing above 70%. Just because of that. That's why I think I'm looking to go underweight, looking to fade, play him strictly at his finishing percentage. Say I only want him in scenarios where he scores 80 or more points. If he doesn't, I think I'm just going to take a shot on somebody else to outscore him. My favorite, I think, ways to build are going to be, if we're pivoting to the main event next, to go significantly underweight on Spivak and go significantly overweight on Tybura. Apologies if I mispronounce people's names, because again, I haven't watched a lot of fights. I just like diving into DFS. But I want to go really heavily overweight on Tybura here. And then outside of that, I think I just want to heavily target people who are going to be picking up takedowns.
Well, talking about takedowns, I mean, Sergey Spivak in the main event, much more likely to land takedowns on Marcin Tybura, although Tybura can wrestle a little bit. I mean, this is a rematch. Spivak's a minus 155 favorite, plus 125 inside the distance. Tybura's plus 240 inside the distance. Spivak is going to be twice as owned as Tybura in this main event. $8,300, $7,900 fight. The thing, though, like, okay, it's the main event. It's a 5-round fight. And I'm putting that in quotes, 5-round fight. It's actually favored to end under 3.5. So it's more likely to be a 3-round fight. And to be fair, it's heavyweight. So if we do get to the 4th and 5th round, who knows what this fight looks like? I mean, heavyweight fights are this high variance situation where, you know, one punch can knock people out. And then if you're a wrestler at heavyweight, you have a pretty decent advantage because there aren't many good heavyweights that wrestle. But also, the fights tend to be slow, low volume. And if this makes it to the 4th round, you may see both these guys, you know, breathing out of their mouths and kind of leaning on each other on the fence. So I think there's a wide range of outcomes here for the main event. And it's going to probably be in 75 to 80% of your lineups. I mean, I obviously prefer Spivak over Tybura in a vacuum just because he's more likely to wrestle. And Tybura is not a prolific scorer either. If you had a choice, okay, here's the decision point. If we're building one lineup, right? Would you be more likely to fade Gutierrez for one of the other like underdogs, or fade the main event completely? Like if you had a choice, like if you would,
I would be more likely to fade Gutierrez. I think in single entry, I will be fading Gutierrez and playing Tybura.
Yeah, you're gonna be different if you're playing Tybura and no Spivak and no Gutierrez. I mean, in single entry, if you play like 555, I mean that's going to be a unique line. I think that will be a unique line.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 9K fighters, okay, and not the fake 9K fighter, right? I mean, like Gutierrez technically should be the $9,500 fighter. So we got Zalal, Barlow, Mariscal, and Carl Williams. 9,400, 9,300, 9,100, 9,000. Barlow has the best inside the distance line at minus 140. I'm expecting him to be close to 50% owned. I'm assuming Carl Williams, even though he has the worst ITD line, he usually wins by decision and with multiple takedowns. He's facing, you know, a newcomer. No, he's facing Janata Deniz. Then you got Zalal and Mariscal up there. I mean, like these guys, yeah, they're big favorites over, I mean, questionable competition. Out of this bunch, I feel as if the Carl Williams Janata Deniz fight is the one that, if I had a choice out of these 9K fighters, I think out of the fights like this, I think whoever wins the Williams-Denise fight ends up being optimal. Because if Williams wins, he probably doesn't finish him, but he has 8 takedowns in the process. Or Denise knocked Carl Williams out in the first round. Because Denise has a plus 185 inside the distance, which is an amazing number for a $7,200 fighter. If Chris Gutierrez wasn't on the slate, we'd be talking about how popular Janata Denise is. Do you agree with me that Williams Denise is the priority out of these 4 fights, or do you have kind of a different take?
Yeah, I would say the priority for sure is that one. I would say kind of like on an individual standpoint, Barlow would be maybe the top priority, but in terms of a fight that I want to be targeting in every lineup the most, Carl Williams and Denise would be that one, because I think Carl Williams can get a ton of takedowns. I think Denise has a chance to knock him out. And so that would be my top choice there in terms of like fight that I want to target the most in that range. Individual fighters above 9K, I think I would prioritize Barlow. But Williams would probably be 2.
Okay, so the mid-range features 3 female fights. I think all these fights go under-owned, but under-owned to an extent, because I mean there's only 10 fights. So I don't know if any of these get, like, it's a weird dynamic on the slate with Gutierrez that Rosa, Luciano, and Santos will still get plenty of ownership because people will just spend their salary, right? Because it's like you can get to any of these favorites. I think it's more likely that that the underdogs, like outside of Gutierrez, like none of the underdogs under 7,700 are going to really be owned all that much. So I look at these 3 female fights. Rosa's a favorite, minus 200, plus 350 inside the distance. Luciano, minus 165 favorite, plus 325 inside the distance. Yana Santos, minus 143, plus 800 inside the distance. I mean, these female fights, the women's MMA fights, are more likely to go to decision. They're closer line fights. I mean, I think you can play either side of any of these fights, but I'm not sure where the ceiling is on a lot of them. My inclination says that I'd rather play Chelsea Chandler as an underdog against Santos, or Alenkar as an underdog against Luciano, or Cara Rosa as a favorite over Chienza, just based on fighting style. But I think if you I'm going to make a bold prediction. I think one of the fighters from one of these women's MMA fights ends up being optimal. The question is which one, and the question is also which one and why. Penny Chienza just simply winning and scoring 72 points at 7,600 could end up being optimal. I mean, just simply winning on a 10-fight card is pretty damn good. So what are your thoughts on the 3 women's MMA fights? Because with the mispricing of Gutierrez, it's not like Rosa, Luciano, and Santos are going to be like, oh, now they're going to be 12% owned. It's like these they're still going to be 25, 30, 35% owned, because how many out? There's 10 fights. There's 20 fighters. You can, like, it's not going to be where Carl Williams is 62% and Barlow is 78% and Gregorio is set, like ownership is enough going to go to these female favorites.
Yeah, I think these female underdogs are exactly where I want to go to get away from Gutierrez. I think Alenkar is probably my favorite of the bunch. The one favorite I'm big on is going to be Rosa. She's the one that I want to play a lot of, and I probably won't be playing a ton of her opponent against her. But Rosa up top, and then Alenkar and maybe some Chandler as well, I think are going to be where I'm going.
Okay, so the last thing that we have to talk about, since we talked about it in the very beginning, if you don't play Chris Gutierrez, you still have to play some underdog. right? Sometimes, Kazama down, right? $7,400 down. They're all going to be under-owned, I guess, compared to their finish probability, their inside the distance probability, only because, once you play Gutierrez, you don't have to play any of these guys. So we have Kazama, Deniz, Jackson, Varetnikov, Aarons, and Lee. I don't think any of these guys are going to be more than 20% owned. I'd be shocked if some of them are even over 10% owned. Obviously, if you're a premium subscriber here at RotoGrinders, if you're not, get $40 off your first month. Click on the link in the description. Squirrel Patrol has his takedowns article up because he's away this weekend, but he made sure to get that up before this morning. How would you rank compared? Obviously, take away Gutierrez. How would you rank these under? We have six of these underdogs, 7,400 below. Price doesn't really matter at this point because if you're playing them over Gutierrez, you can play anyone you want. How would you rank those six underdogs, and how much of them are you likely to have from 1 to 6?
It's a good question. I think
Deniz is clearly number 1.
Deniz is clearly number 1 for me. Deniz is clearly number 1. I think Damon Jackson number 2. I don't like Varetnik number 3. Varetnikov number 3.
Okay.
I don't really think I'm going to get to any Lee or Aarons.
Okay, so you're much more likely to be playing, right? Even though you're not playing, even though you're not playing Gutierrez, you're not going to play much Kang Lee.
No.
Because your goal is not that Gutierrez loses, it's just that he doesn't put up a high, it's not even that he doesn't put up a high score.
It's just a slow decision fight that puts up 68 points would be ideal.
Right. So just because you're fading Gutierrez doesn't mean you like Lee. It just means that you think that you have a good shot at one of these other underdogs just outscoring Gutierrez.
Yeah.
That Gutierrez is gonna just not be optimal. He still can help you cash, right? You play Gutierrez in the lineup, he scores 68 points. I mean, you still you got a winner. If you get 6 winners in your lineup, if you get 5 winners in your lineup this slate, you could probably hit the cash line. I would agree with you to some extent. So, I would rank Deniz 1, Jackson 2. I agree with you there. Varetnikov is up there. I mean, I'm less likely to. I'm less likely to play Aarons, less likely to play Lee. But I want to mention Toshiyama Kazama. 7,400. He's going to be facing Grigoriev.
Well, you told me 6. That's 7.
No. Kazama, Deniz, Jackson.
Oh, God. I counted Gutierrez. That's my bad.
Right. So Kazama.
My bad.
The thing about Kazama, okay? Charalampos, Grigoriou, is going to be mega owned. 50+% owned. He's minus 120 inside the distance, minus 250 to win, which is a great number for 8,800. I don't personally think that Kazama wins this fight. But if he does, it's probably due to some submission, some early submission. He's plus 330 inside the distance. I think it's much more likely that Kazama gets knocked out than finishes Charalampos. But I just like his win condition is like a first-round submission. Because he's more of a jiu-jitsu type of guy where, he catches him, and he may not be a good wrestler, but if he gets him on the mat, maybe he gets some armbar finish, some anaconda choke or something like that. Even if it's an ankle lock, who knows? I mean, some low percentage thing. And if that happens in the first round, he probably scores 100 points. The thing is, if he doesn't do it, he probably scores 8 points. So that's the range of outcomes there. So I just want to mention Kazama because I don't think he's going to be that popular, being that he's plus 210 to win at 7,400, and he's facing a fighter that's going to be rostered 50 to 60% in lineups. I think that's the best leverage spot on the slate. But just go in knowing that just because it's the best leverage spot, if you don't get it, you're probably not cashing because you're going to be getting like 5 or 10 points in a spot where people are going to be playing Gutierrez, and you're done. You're screwed at that point. So I just want to make a mention of Kazama. I don't know how much of Kazama I'm playing, but remember, I'm only playing a couple of lineups, right? I don't play 150 anymore. So maybe I have Kazama in one lineup, right? I may and I would be even down on playing Kazama, Denise, Jackson, Gutierrez, and playing 2 of these guys, and then leaving like a 1K on the table, right? So in a lineup that I'm not playing Grigoriou, I play Kazama. In a lineup that I'm not playing Carl Williams, I'm playing Denise. In a lineup that I'm not playing Chepe Mariscal, I'm playing Damon Jackson, right? In a Gutierrez lineup, I'm probably not playing the main event fighter, right? I'm more likely to play maybe 1 or 2 of the women's fighters, playing a Carol Rosa plus a Toledo Lenkar. Like, really, construction comes down to not building these lineups that are duped like 80 times. If you could just build lineups that are duped under 20 even on this slate, I think you're in good shape. And TJ is going the route where he's aiming more for under 10, under 5, maybe even under 3. That's go big or go home type of strategy. You may get like a 3-way chop of first place, or you may be looking at your green number and seeing I put in a couple hundred and got back about
entry fees $800, return $7.
Right. It's gonna be one of those slates. So anything else that you'd like to add as far as lineup construction, DFS strategy, anything that you're doing specifically on the slate as of now? We haven't gotten weigh-ins yet. We may be down to 9 fight. Chelsea Chandler has never made weight at 135. Okay. Now her fights have gotten off because of some catch weight or the percentage of purse. So it wouldn't shock me on a fight night, type of card like this, that maybe we even get another canceled fight. So is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Don't put that out in the world. No.
No, TJ, as long as it's not after lock, I'm fine. Right?
Fair.
Right. Sometimes you go in and it's
we just don't want 9. We don't want this down to
9. And you never know.
It's already at 10. We just don't want this one down to 9.
No, I agree with you, but the worst feeling in the world is when this broadcast starts and they say we have bad news. Yeah. Like, that is literally the worst feeling in all of MMA DFS. It's like, oh, we have bad news. And you're just hoping it's not the fight that you have a lot of, right? Yeah. You're just hoping that and of course they reported as if they couldn't have said this 5 hours ago. It's like, well, it turns out, this guy got into a car accident last night. It's like, how could no one reported this, right? You're just like, we have bad news. Most of your lineups are screwed.
Yeah. No, nothing really else to add for me. I'm going to be underweight on Gutierrez. Play him at his finish percentage as opposed to his win percentage. I'm going to be overweight on Tybura, underweight on Spivak, and that's kind of my main strategy.
Okie doke. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. I'll be on MMA Crunch Time tomorrow with Mike. We'll be doing that at 1 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be able to know what the weigh-ins look like. We'll hopefully know if we're down to 9 fights. Who knows? So tune in. Zorro Patrol's, on vacation a lot of August. So it'll be me on Crunch Time for the next 2 weeks. So tune in tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, where me and Mike pretty much talk about the same stuff we talked about today. Join RotoGrinders, be a Combo Premium member, get all of our MMA content, including Liam and Mike's breakdowns, the expert survey, the sim results for optimal percentages, our projections, our ownership, our everything. Squirrels Patrol's takedowns article, right? So click on that link in the description. Get $40 off your first month. NFL is coming back soon as well. We still got MLB. Grinders Live later today, 5 p.m. Eastern, followed by Crunch Time at 6:15 or so. And then I'll be back I mean, obviously on crunch time tomorrow, but I'll be back on Monday, right? Keep on trucking along. Always here for you Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and picks on RotoGrinders Today.